Hey, everybody. Amie Pederson here, business mentor and confidence coach, and your host of the Moms Making Money Show. I have one of my biz besties and my very best friends here on the line with me, and we actually had been talking about growing your network and what that looks like. And so we decided that we were going to hop on the phone and we were going to kind of talk about a few different things that I know that I've done to kind of expand my network and get in front of the right people to help grow our businesses. And so that can be a lot of different things, including getting sponsorship, getting people to collaborate with you, getting people to purchase from you, all the things, right? So I wanted to take just a quick second and introduce the lovely Kelly McFadden. She actually happens to be, like I said, one of my best friends, as well as one of our sponsors for the Goal Getter Getaway in Cabo. So, we are networked in such a great way. So, Kelly, I just want to thank you for coming on today, and thank you for bringing up this topic, actually.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to be chatting about it. I feel like you're just the queen at networking. You do it so confidently and you're so successful at it. And I'm glad that we chat all the time, like literally all day. So I'm glad that my question spurred something that can help other people too. And I'm glad that we're doing it in this way that other people can benefit.
Yeah. So Kelly is right. We were talking about this, and we do talk pretty much every day. So this just kind of came up naturally. And how it came up is because I had reached out to I'd reached out to Active Campaign and asked them to help me do a training for automation for my clients. And they said yes. And to be honest, sometimes people say no. Like, I've been a customer of one product in particular for over 10 years. And I had asked them to give some sample size, kind of like trial size things of their product. Like, it might have cost them like 50 cents or something. They told me no. And I was like, what? And even like the gal who helps me with my event sponsorship and everything, she's like, wow, and they basically told me, yeah, like, we're not giving it to you this year, and we're all squared away for the next 2 years. So basically don't ask again. And I was like, wait,
wow.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, it's like, it's a body product. Let's leave it at that.
Okay.
So like a 1 ounce or half ounce or, something you could squeeze in your carry-on on an airplane. For them, the cost of it was like, like I was asking for 6 bottles, and they told me no. So it's not always a yes. But one of the things that I found is just asking.
Mm-hmm.
So doing some research, and you obviously need to know about their company and probably need to at least have an interest in it or some knowledge of it. Like, so I would not go to, trying to think of a company. So I don't use Entreport at this point in my business. I would probably not reach out to them to do like a training for me because I'm not their customer, if that makes sense.
Right. So you want to be a customer who wants to support their business, really.
Right. And more so of that, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people who collaborate with others who don't buy or use their products, but I think from a place of integrity, like, how could you promote a product that you don't use?
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like,
mm-hmm.
Here, drink my magic shake. Do you drink it? What does it taste like? Oh, I don't know. I've never tried it. Then people are like, oh, well, if you don't do it, why should I do it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something, and I kind of like loop that back around to like the word of mouth referral system. Like, if you're going to tell somebody about it anyways, why not team up and promote it together?
That's a great point. That's such a great point. Mm-hmm.
Because like, how many times have I been like, oh yeah, this is this and this is that, and then you just let it go. You don't even think about it. Or like, you've done that for me. Like, oh, I went shopping, or I had this great drink, or I had this great meal at this place, and you don't even think anything of it. But then it's like, oh, wouldn't that have been nice if, they had sponsored my event or given me that training. And the crazy thing is when you're offering to promote them most of the time, they're like, yeah, let's do it together. Like, let's get in front of more people. Oh, and hey, by the way, you can set up an affiliate link and you can get compensated for your efforts for promoting our product or our service or whatever. So that's been a really big way for me to kind of connect with other people, is just taking my love or like of a product that I would otherwise share with other people for free, and just asking them to help me share it on their behalf, which is mutually beneficial. So even if they didn't offer an affiliate link, say like, for example, Active Campaign, even just for me to be able to share that with you, like, oh my gosh, I teamed up with Active Campaign, and this morning we recorded this amazing like automation 101, let me send it to you. And then that way, when you get started with them, you'll know exactly how to set up your automation. It helps my clients out. It helps me help them out. And then it helps them out in turn. So it's kind of like win-win for everybody. And I feel like that's how you have to sort of position yourself, as like the win-win coordinator, I guess, if you will. Like, okay, so I'm going to put your product in front of a bunch of people, but in turn, that's gonna benefit them in some way. So even in business, like when you're selling something, it has to be something that's, people aren't going to buy something if you're like, this is going to be absolutely worthless to you. It's $100. But if you're like, this is going to change your life, here's how, whatever your product or service is, then they're like, yes, change my life, take my money.
Mm-hmm. So when you were just starting out, so here's like a big question that I have, because I think you have a big following. To me, you have like a big audience. So like for me, I'm sort of just starting out. My audience is a little bit smaller, and I feel like, and this just might be something in my head, that I don't have much to offer if I was to ask someone, whether it's a company or another coach, to collaborate and network, because I'm not sure that I am able to in turn give them the value, if that makes sense. Because I guess what I've thought and been taught is, when you're doing that type of thing, both parties need to win. So if I don't have much to offer, or at least if I don't feel like I have much to offer, how did you start out and how would you approach that?
So I originally started growing my quote unquote network back when I was doing network marketing. And one thing that they had taught, which I don't do anymore, and it's, it was effective at the time, is just go around adding every person you can think of, like friends of friends and those kinds of things. So I did build up a larger following of people who at this point in time are not my ideal clients, some of which, I've made really good connections with and become really good friends with throughout that journey. But one thing that I feel like you can grow your network by doing is, so like, for example, I grew mine because I network with other wives of power linemen. So we call ourselves line wives. And I kind of learned this from a Beachbody coach whose husband was a police officer. So when she first got started, and she's like part of the Million Club, right? When she first got started, she was doing, she was basically recruiting all police officers' wives to be in her, her groups, her challenge groups. And she kind of started growing from there. And then, of course, Sally knows Susie, and Susie knows Jenny, and Jenny knows Shannon, and it starts to create that ripple effect. And then you start to kind of branch out a little bit, from there, like, oh, did you see what this girl's doing? And she's doing this thing for police wives. Well, I want to do it too. My husband's not a police officer, but maybe I could get in on that still. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, that was one way that I found that I grew. The other thing that I did is, and I still do it sometimes, like, by networking with, or, not even so much, I don't want to necessarily say the word networking, is learning who does what. And a lot of times by learning who does what, it's because I personally had a need for somebody who did that particular thing. So it's like, I know a few people who do Facebook ads, some of which I've paid, some of which I've encountered in other groups, masterminds, free groups, and different things. Like my friend Nikki Schroeder, she's like a social media manager, and she's a whiz at Instagram. I met her in a Facebook community, one of the larger, moms type of Facebook communities. And I just happened to see like, oh, she does Instagram, and holy crap, she does it for like $50 a week. Like, are you kidding me? And so I was like, I need to be friends with her. So I added her as a friend, and I sent her a message. I'm like, girl, what you're doing. And I was like, legit, like sincere about this message. It wasn't a, hey girl, you want to buy my stuff? Cause I've never sold her anything, Right. It was kind of like, oh, hey, what you're doing is incredible. Like, how are you able to do, like, sincerely, like, how are you able to do that for, such a little amount of money? And, we got to talking, and, and we've kind of traded and gone back and forth with referrals and collaborations and different things. And we've just kind of, now we're friends. So that's another way that, that I meet other people. One thing that I would say is, you had mentioned like that you feel like sometimes you don't have value to add.
Right.
Your following isn't your only value. So because you can have, say, 1,000 followers, and if 1,000 of those followers are your ideal client, then you're doing way better than somebody with 10,000 followers who only 100 of those followers are their ideal client. You know what I mean? And a lot of times too, you see some people and they just popped up out of nowhere and they've got 500,000 followers. Well, you can quote unquote buy followers. Mm-hmm. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I'm guessing based on what I've heard about it that they're not your ideal clients. So it's basically like not really going to serve you in any way, even if you did that. So that was one thing I did, like, and having come from network marketing, I did go back through and like, I friended all of the people from my high school. I started, I did start to connect like with people who I thought seemed interesting to me, like in my local community, because I didn't know a ton of people in my local community. And I thought that that was kind of a cool way to, meet people in person and go have a cup of coffee or go for a hike or whatever. And then those people typically are like, oh, well, I know this girl. Can I add her to your group? Or could I do this? Or could I do that? And that's worked actually pretty well for me.
Gotcha. No, that was a really, that made me think a lot when you just said your following isn't your only value. Which I think a lot of times when we're thinking of these things, it's like, well, she has 5,000 followers and I have 200, like what? But you're right. The quality, sometimes it's quality versus quantity. And the value isn't always in your numbers and in the following. It's really what you can collaborate on. So maybe I think what you're saying is getting my wheels turning, that when you reach out to someone, see how you can collaborate instead of necessarily looking at it from I don't have anything to add here. Like, of course, everyone has something to add. Mm-hmm. So looking at it from like, let's collaborate and see what we can do.
Yeah. So even think about something like this. Like you could do, like, say if you wanted to host a virtual summit. So what you would do is you would reach out to 5, 10, 20 women or men, whatever, who kind of had something to do with your network or, your audience. Right. So, and you could interview them. So I'm actually going to be featured in another business owner's. She does a monthly feature and she brings on like 4 or 5 women every month. And she asks them like, hey, could you give me something of value that I could give to my clients? And in turn, they can, start to follow you and grow your list and grow your following and whatever. So for you, you have stuff that I know you have it, like, because I know you have like amazing audios, you have amazing trainings already in your arsenal. So I could come to you and be like, hey, Kelly, I'm going to be starting this monthly summit type of thing. Would you like to get in on it? And then everybody who opts in, you'll get, they'll know that they're going to be getting onto your email list. I'll be sending it to all of my people. You'll be sending it to all of your people, whether it's 100 or 100,000. And then the other women on that will also be sending it to all of their people. So you're almost like cross-pollinating each other's lists, so to speak. Kind of like sharing, but in a non-spammy, non-illegal way. So it's totally legal, totally compliant. You're disclosing that if you opt in to get all all of these gifts from all of these people, that they will have a means to communicate with you. Another way to do it is like a traditional summit. And I attended a summit where the host of the summit had reached out, I think, to 20 women. And it was like a summit based on the value of growing your email list. So she had picked a theme, a topic that was of interest and of value to pretty much every new entrepreneur, or even an emerging entrepreneur, I guess you could say, about, why you should grow your email list, and maybe some different tips and tricks on how to do that. So each one of these women, and she had set her own criteria. I think her criteria was each one of these women had to have 2,000 people on their email list. So what she did is she interviewed them. She allowed them to offer a gift so they could have like an opt-in. And so anybody who watched that video could be like, oh, I really jive with this woman's business. And they were all different kinds of female entrepreneurs, from life coaches to business coaches to weight loss coaches to branding experts and different things, right? So it kind of gave a really good spread. And there was a transitional life coach. There was all kinds of stuff as far as like niche and offers and whatever. And I even like somebody who did funnels. And so they all shared, a little bit about their story and how growing their email, like how they started growing their email list, gave a few different tips and tricks, and then how that positively impacted their business. And, this particular host was really good at keeping each interview at its like set, I think it was like 30-minute time frame. And, she just pumped those out over, the period of time. But the way that I was turned on even to this summit, because I'd never met or heard of this girl before, is one of my coaches who happened to have a list of like 18,000 people. She was being featured as a guest speaker. And part of the requirement was you have to send out an email to your list saying that you're being featured. And if anybody wants to get the videos, they have to click here and opt in. So I opted in, and I thought, oh, well, that's kind of cool. I've never participated in a summit as far as like even being a participant. What is this? What does it mean? The only summit I had been to was for my network marketing company. And I was like, I don't understand. What is this all about? But I decided that, well, I want to grow my email list. I do think that's an important thing. So by doing that, I'd ended up meeting her and made a really good connection. And, the host of this is an amazing coach, amazing girl, and I really like her a whole lot. And we have collaborated on some things, so it's just, for me, I find there's so many different ways to go about it. But I think maybe you've never noticed, but I'm not overly shy in like talking to people. Like I talk to strangers and stuff.
Right. That helps.
So, and I don't feel like I'm an overly bold person, but like I'm like sociable, I'm friendly. And I think that can also go a long way, because you can meet somebody like in a random place. You can meet somebody sitting next to them on an airplane. You can meet somebody standing in like a ferociously long line at Costco at Thanksgiving time, because who knows how long you'll be stuck in that line, right? Mm-hmm. You can meet somebody, I'm trying to think, I talk to people all over the place. And the thing about it is you have to be confident enough in what you're doing when somebody's like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, well, let me just tell you, I am the business coach and, blah, 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 and go on and just say it like, yeah, like no big deal. Just as much as I would say like, oh, my name is Amie. I am a business mentor and a confidence coach and whatever. So, and then people will be, because for whatever reason, well, I guess when you change the word from consultant to coach or mentor, people get thrown off by that. And they're like, I don't know what that is. Tell me what you do. And so I always take full advantage of being like, oh, here's what I do. But for some reason, some people kind of shy away from that. And they're like, oh, I'm a coach. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? What do you coach? Little League?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, I coach, I coach women in business. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they don't expand on it at all, or they don't put a whole lot of oomph and energy and excitement behind it. Like, hell yeah, like they almost say it as if they like work at a prison or something,
Yes.
So being excited and having a good, like, quote unquote elevator pitch, I think is another way to
smart
network.
too. Mm-hmm.
Trying to think what else. Like, so I have here, we have a list of questions here. How do you start conversations with somebody who you want to network or collaborate with? I just kind of take it back to like the old school, like, hey girl days. Like, I just send them a private message or like an email or something. And I'll just say like, hey, I love what you're doing. I love, what you have to offer, whether it's a product or a service. I'd love to be able to promote you to my clients, or I'd love to be able to, obviously you have to make it about them and enticing them instead of like, hey, Kelly, would you like to come help me grow my business by, giving away all of your stuff for free? No, everybody's gonna be like, hey lady, F off. But when you're like, hey, Kelly, I would love to feature you on the Moms Making Money show so that you have a chance to get in front of my network and grow your list and grow your clients. And I'm even willing to offer a spot for you to give away a free gift so that you can have these people who follow opt in. That's a whole different thing to them, even though it's mutually beneficial because that gives me content for my show. But it also does like genuinely help you get in front of more people. So one other thing that I've recently learned that you can do, and I haven't done it yet myself. Well, I take that back. I have been on a podcast. But you can reach out to some of your favorite podcasts. You can reach out to your favorite blogs, or even blogs that, you can like type into Google, like, say if you wanted to be, since you are very spiritual. So say if you wanted to get into a blog about meditation, right? You could do like meditation blog, like guest features or something. And you can Google that and see what pops up, because that like SEO will pull up like the application form for a lot of blogs.
Okay.
In your niche. So then you can go on there and maybe the first one you pull up is Gabby Bernstein's, and for some crazy reason she's looking for new people to feature or something. I don't know. Like, she's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But, or so say if that was me and I'm like, okay, spiritual meditation blog, guest blog feature, and then it pops up Kelly McFadden, I'd reach out to you. I'd go to your About Me or your Contact Me, and I'd say, hey, Kelly, and obviously I highly recommend that you actually go through their blog, make sure that you jive with, with their vibe and their theme and the things that they say. Like, you don't want to go onto a blog and the person like uses the F word all the time and it's against your beliefs to say the F word. Like, you got to make sure it's a good fit, right? So that nobody's surprised when you actually get accepted or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go in there to their Contact Me and just be like, hey, or sometimes it has like a featured spot, and you can like an apply here and you can just apply. But you go in there and be like, hey, I would love to do a guest blog spot for you. Here's what I have to offer. I'm like super into, really awesome guided meditations, and I would love to do one on this particular topic at this particular time of the month for you and for your followers. Is that something that you'd be interested in? I usually like to leave it with a question.
Yeah, absolutely. Ball in their court.
Yeah, but you still, and it's usually a question that that they're going to say yes to.
Right.
So you just reach out and, sometimes they get back to you, sometimes they don't. But I know, like, I saw something somewhere and I don't remember where I saw it, but I applied for a feature, or I guess it's like an expert training spot for the Growth and Virtual Success Con. And they like totally accepted me. And the people were so nice. And so that feature is coming out in September. So I'm kind of like, So for me, a lot of times it's kind of like, you just have to ask. And I know that can be so scary. You know how like those cyber bullies are, they can sit behind their keyboards and type out anything. It's a little bit less frightening to send in an application or to say, hey, I'd love to be a guest blogger on your blog, than it would be to like actually like walk up and knock on their door like the old school days.
Yeah. I love that idea.
And same with podcasts, same with like shows.
So basically, I guess I never thought of it that way. So like all I have to do is really know a few topics that I'd either like to write about or I'd like to speak about, and pick whatever ones and be like, here are the topics I like to write, or I'd like to write about, or I'd like to be featured about, and see what they say, right? Is that really about it?
Yeah, and the only thing that I can say is like, be confident in what you have to offer. Like, yeah, I have this really badass meditation, like a meditation guidance ritual that just really helps me get through this, that, or whatever. Or like this really, really badass, like new moon ritual that really just helps people like step into the new moon with like really cleared, refreshed energy, and just own it. Just be like, yeah. And as a matter of fact, and if you don't want me to do it, then somebody else will. I'll go call Amie because she'll have me do it on her blog, which, by the way, you can totally do.
Oh, thanks, girl.
So yeah, so even like when I first started the Moms Making Money show, it just came to me like on a whim. I was on a call with my coach at the time. Who was your coach at the time? You know, like even like we networked by meeting each other virtually.
That is so true, man.
You know, so, and I've done that with, you know, several masterminds in a row. Like I've met other people and I'm like, dang, like, okay, this is so easy, you know, because it's just, you just click with, you know how it is with energy. You just click with people who you click with, and they're your people, they're your tribe. And so when I came up with the idea to do a show, I originally had been throwing around the idea of doing a summit. And I'm like, well, and this is like going to sound super bad, I don't want to pay for a course on how to do a summit. I'm pretty sure I could figure out a different way to get exposure. I'm pretty sure I could figure out a different way to get this experience out there and show people, you know, show other moms out there, you know, because my big thing that I like to talk about a lot is like self-confidence and, you know, starting. Like, I feel like so many women stop before they ever actually start because they're afraid. Yep. They're afraid of what people will think. They're afraid of what people will say to them. And so I wanted to like show them, like, look at all these women. They're doing it. If they can do it, you can do it too. So that was my whole premise for starting the show. And all I simply did is I went into a few of like the mom groups, the business women entrepreneur groups, the women helping women, those type of groups. And I just did a post and I said, please delete if this is not allowed. Because, you know, slap my hand, my bad. Like I didn't like go back and like, and I should have, like read the rules on what's allowed, what's not allowed. You know, sometimes collaboration posts are not allowed. So I do recommend that you do that, even though I didn't. And I just said, like, please delete this if it's not allowed. But I'm starting a show, and this is the premise of it. You know, I want to give other moms, you know, like living proof that it can be done. You know, that was not my copy, but more or less that was kind of what I pitched. And it's free, and I'm happy to feature you in front of my entire audience. I'll basically do all the work. I'll create the graphic. I'll give you a template to send to your, you know, to post on social media, as well as to send to your list. Basically, all you have to do is show up, share your story, and share the obstacles that you overcame to become a successful female entrepreneur. And I didn't put like guidelines on it. Like you didn't have to be a multimillionaire to be on the show, like, because success is so different for everybody. For some people, earning an extra $1,000 a month in their side hustle is a big deal, and that's success to them because they're able to make their car payment and groceries and pay the utilities, and, you know, heck, that's a lot of people's rent and mortgage payment. Yep. So I didn't put any limitations on it there, like you didn't have to have a minimum monthly earning or anything. And to be totally honest, I like was so surprised at how many people wanted to be featured that I was booked out within the first 2 weeks. I was booked out.
I remember that happening. And I was like, oh God, because I know I've been talking to you about it. I really wanted to start my own similar show, talking to women about what kind of high vibe habits they have in their lives that help them, and why they think they're important to have, you know, those types of things. But
girl, you should.
You just said it. Like I stop myself before I start because I say I don't know how to reach out, which is why I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because I, is where I freeze a little bit. It's like, well, how do I find the people to interview or to get on my show? So I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yeah. So basically just go into some of the groups of, so for me, it's mom groups and female entrepreneurs. And, I know that female entrepreneurs can be kind of vague and vast, but for the intended purposes of my show, I didn't care. I wanted to feature people from network marketing, people who were tarot card readers, people who were business mentors, people who were personal trainers, I just wanted to show everybody it can be done in every capacity. But, and women, we're habitual overthinkers, and I don't know why we do that.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll think ourselves right out of a great idea.
That's what my next program's all about.
Yes. So my advice to you to get in front of more people is and this is going to sound really cliche, is just get in front of more people.
Yeah.
Share your offer. But, the key to it is positioning it to, and I always say, hey, Kelly, can I feature you and your product and your service and your new program and your freebie on my show? I'd love to show people how you overcame self-doubt, how you overcame fear, and how you're now a successful business owner. Because that's the truth. I do want to do all those things. And two, it's almost like a compliment all at the same time for them. And they're like,
that's
yeah,
true.
hell yeah. I can get down with her vibe. I've not had anybody tell me no. I did have a couple people flake, but that happens. So whatever.
That's life.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to do it.
So yeah, just I have found, and a lot of stuff sometimes just comes to me and I'm just, okay, well, I'm just going to ask. What's the worst I can do is say no. And I used to have that. I've always said that saying, but then it's kind of, you go back in your mind about all right, I'm going to ask my boss for a raise. The worst he can do is say no. And then it's the most dreadful conversation to ever start. And then the no is what you said no? Don't
Who should I ask? Yeah.
What I do for you? All my blood, sweat, and tears, and all these, and then you feel unappreciated. But that doesn't, and obviously maybe we don't all know the inner workings of the company's financials or whatever. Maybe they just really can't afford to. But it doesn't mean you don't feel any less like shit because you got up all that courage to ask, and then they're like, no, now's not a good time. I'm so sorry. Or it's just not in the budget. It doesn't even matter what they say. They could say
you don't hear anything past the no.
money on hookers, and you're still going to feel the same way about it, right?
Nope.
Doesn't
matter.
So I've come to the conclusion that at this point in time, asking somebody to be featured on my show or asking somebody to allow me to share their product with my clients and my community and even people who've never bought anything from me, it's my way of giving extra value to them, sometimes at no cost, and sometimes I'm putting it in my paid programs too, and it's just a total score, right? To have somebody that you're networked with or somebody offer to do that training in exchange for the exposure, which I love. That's an amazing way to collaborate with one another. But yeah, I've just figured, what's the worst that could happen if I reached out to somebody about how to create a membership site, for example, because I have something pending with one of the membership site companies. If they say no big deal. On to the next one. One of them will say yes. And actually, I have one of my event sponsors, Honeybook. They were incredible. I'd reached out to one of their competitors at the same time. And I was like, do you guys do one-on-one training? I'd love to get somebody who can kind of walk me through some of the logistics of your program, because I'm actually interested in using the program for my business. But in turn, I would love to use my social influencer status and my relationship with my clients to promote your product if it's something that I end up using and loving. Well, the one company was like, nope, we don't have one-on-one support. We don't have this. We don't have that. Here, watch a webinar. And I was like, that's kind of low vibe. Whereas the other company was like, yeah, hey, so I can actually personally call you. So the girl, she's like, I'm a HoneyBook concierge, and I can personally call you on Monday. We can go over all the details, any questions that you have, no problem. And I was like, what? You're going to call me? Like the lady from the
right.
chat box, you're going to call me? And she was like, yep, I'm going to call you. Is this a good time? And we set it up. And sure enough, she called me. And then she's like, so here's what we can do for you. And you wanted to collaborate. Okay, so here's what we can do for you. Here's what we can do for your retreat. Here's what we can do for your, your audience and your potential clients. So sure enough, September 12th, we're going to be having a live group training. They're going to do a huge live group training for, well, I can only take 100 people. So for the first 100 people who log on, they can hop on live, ask their questions. What about this? Will it work for my business? Like all that kind of stuff. Because I told them that I was willing to promote their product. That is such a huge win, like for my clients and my following, that they get exposure to to a tool that maybe they never knew even existed.
Yeah.
It's a free training, and it's a free webinar, and then they also get, they're going to be getting a really special discount. They've offered, like, Katie will be their one-on-one concierge. Like when they're onboarding, all they have to do, they don't have to call customer service in India or wherever or between blah, blah, blah hours. All they have to do is send Katie an email and she'll help them out. I was like, what? I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Amazing. And then they're like, and you know what else we'll do? We'll give them 50% off for an entire year. All they have to do is put in your code. I'm like, done. Like, I'm all about saving my people money. Like, yes. So that was like a big deal. So I'd reached out to kind of two people who basically offered the same thing. And one of them was just HoneyBook. They were just amazing.
And so did they, and this is me getting in my head again, do they ask you how large of a following you have, or are they just like, cool, someone wants to promote us? Do you know what I mean?
Right. So like with Active Campaign, they didn't ask me. They just said, yeah, we'll do it. We would love to do that.
Okay.
I don't think that HoneyBook asked me. I think I told them, but they didn't seem, they weren't one way or the other about it. They were just like, yeah, you want to promote us? Sure. What can we do to help you? So,
that's okay.
So they're going to be giving, my groups and communities and whatever, they're going to be giving ongoing training and education and support and all of that kind of stuff. Just in exchange for me promoting their product as a customer
really
of
cool.
theirs, which I am now because they really won me over. So that's why I say too, like, you don't want to just go out and be like, okay, I want to promote you. Like, you want to team up and then not use their product and not have, an actual like word of mouth experience to give.
Right.
So like for me, I could tell you all day about how impressed I am with HoneyBook's customer service, right? Like, I think they're freaking fantastic. Like, I kind of want to get on an airplane and go to San Francisco and be like, hey, can I have a hug? You guys told me to hug me. And I still might do that. Like, I totally might do that. But some people are just like, no, you're not worth the price. You're not worth $10 to me, even though I pay them twice that much for their product, So it's kind of like, all right, see you later. So it's not always a win, but that's
of course.
Okay. That's okay.
Can't be afraid of those no's though.
And even like when you go to post like, hey, I'm launching a new show, I'm launching a podcast, and I would love to be able to feature amazing women who have knowledge or experience or interest in this topic. The ones who don't want to be featured, they just won't reply. So it almost kind of pre-qualifies them. It's like the first part of the funnel, the biggest part at the top, they get filtered out like, I don't know about this. And maybe it's kind of like anything else. They kind of sit back like, ooh, who is this Kelly girl? And what is she doing with this show or podcast or whatever? And maybe later they'll come back and be like, hey, are you still looking for, guests to be featured on your podcast or your show? If so, I'd love to be a guest. And so once you start getting that going, people will start reaching out to you. So yeah, I'm so excited that I'm even now I'm booked out till October, and I haven't promoted the show. I actually kind of got a little overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know what my plans are that in advance. I got to take a step back from this. And I don't, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in November exactly.
Yeah. So, you're like, hold on, let me pump the brakes.
Yeah. So, and then I kind of, because I booked so far out, I'll be in Cabo for the Goal Getters getaway, the VIP weekend. And I'm kind of like, oh shoot, like I have somebody who I'm featuring for the show during that time that I'm gone. And I'm kind of like, oh, well, I guess I'm on the hook. So, it has kind of and it's definitely not like a pro or con type of thing, but now I'm kind of like, oh, well, I guess I'm working on vacation, which is totally fine. But that, I guess if you have any quote unquote problems, that's the problem to have is, booking out so far in advance.
Seriously, how awesome is that? Yeah. That'll be me. All because of this helpful call.
That's okay. That's okay. It's only an hour, and it's usually really, really I've always had such a great time on every call, every podcast, every show. And the cool thing is some of these women I've never met before, and I've only spoken to them maybe a handful of times from the time I get their application. And so I get to hear their story in real life for the most part for the very first time on the show. Like I see it written out in their application, but it's, that's just their elevator pitch. I don't get the down and dirty. Like one of the gals who I'd featured, she was out doing like saving the world basically because she was an essential oils coach and she had this extra income and they went down to Panama and they were like building houses and doing all this stuff down there for people in need. And, just all that, like feeding people, everything. Like I would have never, ever known that about her. And I was like, seriously, on the show, I was like, oh my God, this chick is going to make me freaking cry.
Oh, you're like, hold on a minute. I'm not supposed to be
on the World Wide Web. That's like even worse than national.
On the World Wide Web.
Right? So she's telling us this incredible story. And even one of my clients later, I talked to her on the phone and she's like, oh my God, that episode. She's like, that girl, she had me so choked up and her story was incredible. And, just went on and on. But so you get to make a lot of really cool connections in that way too.
Yeah. It just sounds nice.
It's fun. It's so fun. So I definitely think if it's like in your heart, like on your mind to start a show, go for it. It's going to be one of the easiest things that you do because it's so much fun.
You're right.
So those are my suggestions for networking. So thank you so much, Kelly, for hopping on. Thank you for asking such great questions. And I can't wait to see your show. Thank you, everybody, for listening today. And I will see you guys. Well, I probably won't see you, but I will talk to you guys on the next episode. Bye now.